What can I do if someone used my credit card online? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. Let's dive right into this question. Someone used my credit card online without my permission. My American Express statement showed a charge for software that I had not ordered. I notified Amex and they checked it out and said that the charge appeared legitimate. The problem was that the order data supplied was my card number, my address, and everything else except the email address was not my email address. Someone used all of my data and created a special email address to download software and charged it to my account. Amex has turned this over to their fraud department and my card number has been changed. Can an email address be identified as to who originated it? If a software provider gives a customer a license number for their software, can they revoke that license and make that software inoperable? What you're experiencing is actually very close to identity theft. One of the things that is very common, of course, is for credit cards to be compromised. I've had it happen several times over the years. And in each case, the credit card companies I've been dealing with have been very, very good about it. In some cases, they actually detected the fraudulent activity before I did. What's unique about your case, of course, is that they actually built this entire profile with your information associated with it, except for that email address. So what I want to walk through is what it means, what you should do, which there's good news here, and what you can and cannot expect related to that email address. First off, the very first thing you already did. That's the good news here, and that is absolutely report any suspicious or fraudulent activity on your credit card to the credit card company. I've had really good experiences with my primary credit card providers, American Express, as you have, and Chase, which is another card that I use fairly regularly. And before people hop into the comments, I understand that every credit card company has its detractors. They think they're horrible. I get that. My personal experience is that I've had really good experiences with these two companies. As always, your mileage may vary. The interesting thing here, of course, is that they also got additional information beyond just your credit card number. Sounds like they got your physical address, your billing address, your zip code, the codes on your card, which kind of implies that the card itself was stolen or potentially copied at some point through during your day-to-day use of the card. I can only theorize. I really don't know how that happened. And I get that that makes it more difficult for the credit card company to easily say that, oh yeah, that's fraud. It's one of the reasons that when you use your credit card, yeah, they will often ask for, if nothing else, your postal code, your zip code in the United States, or they will ask for your billing address, or they'll ask for the card number, the CVV code as it's called, either on the front or the back of your card. Those are not supposed to be stored anywhere. Therefore, by being able to provide that code, you supposedly have the card in your possession. Nonetheless, that didn't happen. The credit card company is doing the right thing by sending it to their fraud department for further investigation. Hopefully, by now, that's been resolved and the charge has been reverted back to your account. And as you've already pointed out, you have a new card with a new number so that the hole in that dam has been plugged. So let's talk about the email address. This is an interesting one. Of all the things that I mentioned that the credit card company uses to identify whether or not you are who you say you are when you use their card, email address isn't one of them. They just don't. They don't care what the email address is. They may use it to send a confirmation. They may use it to, in the case of a product purchase, the merchant will use the email address, as apparently this fraudulent charge did, to get a download code or get a receipt or something like that. But none of it has anything to do with verifying that the credit card, in fact, belongs to the person it should be belonging to. Email addresses are ephemeral. We can create new ones all the time. I know I do. And what that means is that, yeah, I could be using several different email addresses associated with that one credit card. It's just not something that they can reliably use to detect fraud, and to the best of my knowledge, they don't. So, but you have this email address of a fraudster who apparently was able to download some software charged to your card. What can you do with it? Well, once again, very little. If the fraudster was intentional about this, it is very trivial for them to set up a fake email account that they probably use only for this transaction and that they immediately abandon thereafter with no personally identifying information associated with it. You can set up a fake account and just lie about everything, your name, your location, your age, all that stuff, and you got an email address. As long as you can access that email address, you can use it for whatever you want. There's simply no way to trace it back to the real you. On the other hand, if they were sloppy, if they used an email address that they'd used elsewhere, or if you got really lucky, they actually used their own email address, then yeah, that theoretically could be possibly traced back, but not by you. It would take, in fact, either the fraud department at the credit card company or law enforcement getting involved, which I suspect what the fraud department would end up doing, to actually force the email service provider to provide information and then potentially the ISP that was uncovered as part of that investigation to provide information. Pretty darned unlikely for a single purchase on a single download. It's a very costly process, a lot of paperwork involved, and my suspicion is that for low-level stuff like a one-off bad charge, they're just not going to take the time to do all that. The best thing you can do is understand that it happened, try and prevent it from happening again, understanding however, to the best you can, however that information was compromised. But honestly, do not expect anything useful to come from that email address. Now, the other question you asked was, is there what I would call a kill switch? In other words, can a software vendor who has authorized software via the use of a downloadable key, do they have the ability to essentially turn that off, turn off the access associated with that key? Like I said, I call it a kill switch. The short answer there is maybe. Not all software works that way. Much software, in fact, I'd even say most of the software, when you download it, you enter the key that basically validates your purchase, that's it. You've got it on your machine forever. There's no checking, there's no nothing. It may not even bother to contact the mothership periodically. It's just one of those things where, yep, they've got it, there's nothing you can do. However, not all software works that way. I think we're all probably encountering more often software, especially the pricier stuff, where it will ask you for the software key, I'll just say periodically, or it will ask you for the software key if you install that software on too many different machines. I just had that this morning where I've got multiple browsers running, multiple virtual machines running. And yeah, I installed software. I used some software on a machine that I hadn't before. So it required me to verify that I was legitimate. I provided the software key and they said, yeah, you've got this installed on too many machines, which implies that they've got the ability to turn it off. The other thing, of course, is that software keys often are licenses that are subscriptions. So it's very possible that in some cases, the software will simply stop working after a certain amount of time because they didn't renew the key. Bottom line is we just don't know. And honestly, once again, I think it's very unlikely. It's unfortunate, but it is true that that's some of the stuff that these scammers count on. The difficulty of tracking them down, the difficulty or cost involved in tracking down even a small purchase, and the fact that, once they've got their hands on the software, they can do whatever they want. So honestly, you did the one thing you can do, and that is reach out to your credit card company and tell them about the fraud. Enlist their help, follow their advice. Whenever something like this happens, and this is true for not just credit card fraud, but basically any kind of hacking or compromise, one of the things I strongly advise you to do is to sit down and think for a little bit about how this possibly could have happened. I know that in one of my credit card fraud scenarios, I thought about it and I realized that I had used the card in a specific situation, in a specific place where, yeah, that must have been where it happened. That must have been where the card, in my case, probably got cloned. But the bottom line here is that really the best thing you can do in situations like this, after you've talked to the credit card company, is to see if you can learn about what not to do next time to see if you can prevent this from happening again, to increase your security and your awareness to hopefully never be in this situation again. Hopefully that helps. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/2879. I'm Leo Notenboom, and this is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.